Good morning. It's Viewpoint, personalities, politicians, and perspectives, and also the station cat. So we have certainly some personalities this morning. We're happy to have them both back on the air, doing some really important work in this community. Judith will handle that in just a few minutes, as well as the kudos, Mrs. Busby. We'll start the kudos this morning with passing of the baton to you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we got a big thing going on.
This is also a promotion as well as a kudo.
Yes.
Yeah.
At Lincoln Community High School this weekend, on the Cinco de Mayo and 6th and 7th and 8th. The 5th, 6th, and 7th is a 7 o'clock program. The 8th is a 2 o'clock program. Our guest's daughter is a part of the cast, and it's The Music Man, a really favorite musical. And you can get tickets at the door, and it will be, I personally am going to, and it will be a very nice program, so there's something good for you to take advantage of this weekend.
Sunday's going to catch me because we have a lot of college activities this weekend. By the way, this is a commencement weekend for Lincoln College. Another little promo, if you don't mind. We're going to have an outstanding guest. We have Mr. Hal Holbrook, a very noted actor who's come here to give the commencement speech, and we're very proud to have him here. But the Music Man, 57 years old. Hard to believe that. It first appeared on Broadway in 1957, and it ran for 1,375 performances. One of the great all-time musicals that ever appeared on the stages in Broadway. A schmaltzy story about a guy who comes to town to flim-flam all the local townspeople. They didn't have Paul Adams as sheriff. That wouldn't have happened. But the genesis of it, if you'll remember, his purpose was to sell band uniforms and collect the money before the band uniforms and skedaddle out of town. It was a great, great musical. Meredith Willson wrote this about his hometown of Mason City, Iowa. And nobody was a better music man than Robert Preston, who was on stage and also in the movie. So these kids, there's a big cast, 30 plus in the cast. We have a stage crew, a big stage crew out there, and a pit orchestra of some 16. A lot of people working hard to put this thing on, and the director is Kim Peterson Quinn, who has a voice like a canary, and I'm sure she'll do a great job with these kids. So you all find some time to go out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. Be a great experience for you. You know, as I often say, you've heard me say ad nausea, that there are more important things in high school extracurricular activities than just sports. Speech and drama and music are an important part of their curricula out there. And so this features some of these youngsters that are working so hard. So congratulations to all of them, and I hope they have as the old expression says, break a leg.
There you go.
Yeah, so
not literally.
Yes, not certainly. Why don't you introduce our guest? Paul is. We've got him on short time this morning, short race, because he has to get to Springfield. So
he's going to be a fast-talking dude.
That's right, yeah.
Paul Adams, of course, is the chief of police in the city of Lincoln. And with him is Angie Stoltzenburg, and she's with Healthy Community Partnership at Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. And we are going to be talking about this heroin epidemic. When I first heard it termed that, it kind of surprised me, because when you look at arrests, it's mostly meth, it seems. But now we're talking heroin epidemic, and that's a pretty scary thing.
In Logan County, are we faced with that as in that word epidemic, do you think, Chief?
Well, it's not as bad as an epidemic here as it is in, some of the bigger
major cities
like Chicago and Seattle and New York, and I mean just all the way around us. But the problem is it's filtering its way down to us. So because heroin is easy to get, it's in high demand because of the fact that it's so addictive. one hit from a heroin, and they're usually addicted, and then they're always chasing that initial heroin high that they get from it, and then it becomes to the point where they just got to keep taking it just to stay well. So it's not something that's going to go away fast.
So do you get your first doses at a lower cost, and then pretty soon you're hooked, and then the price goes up, or?
Well, the big problem was back in 2001, there was drug companies out there that were essentially trying to prescribe the opioids like Oxycontin, et cetera, that had that opioid base in it, and they were trying to prescribe it and trying to tell everybody that it wasn't, they had a formula that wasn't addictive. It was a kind of a slow release formula. Well, what they found out, and in fact, that pharmaceutical company got sued in 2007, that it was highly addictive and people couldn't get off of it. So they start out with those prescription medications, and there was a lot of people that had it. Back in 2001, I was actually on Oxycontin, and it was terrible to come off of because I was on it for a couple months due to an accident that I was in. So now you have those people, once the doctors realized that there was an issue, and they started essentially not prescribing it as much, then it got to the point where these people were trying to steal it from family members and others, and they go to a house party someplace and they would raid the prescription cabinet that they had. Then once they couldn't get that, or they got arrested, etc., then they were turning to the street, easy access heroin. So that's where it's kind of snowballed for us. So
do we have any idea about our source, that these people that get it in Logan County, they go to Bloomington, Springfield, or Peoria, or mules bring it in from there to sell here in Lincoln, Logan County? Well,
you're absolutely right. I mean, we had a bad problem with the dealers right here in Lincoln. Over the last couple of years, we've been doing a really good job at essentially squeezes a noose here in Lincoln, and our guys have been making a lot of arrests in relation to those heroin dealers. And essentially, we kind of dried up Lincoln. Problem is, it's so available around us that they're going to Peoria, Bloomington, Decatur, and still getting that what they need. And what they'll do is they'll drive in drones, or they'll have one person go down and pick it up and then bring it back, or they may even just go there, use it there, and overdose there. Like Peoria, police chief was at one of our meetings that we were having, and he said that there was a lot of people not inside Peoria that were dying, but a lot of people from the outside communities that were coming in.
There's a serious overdose factor involved in this, is there not?
Yes, there is, and that's where the biggest problem is. It's okay.
The fact that how is heroin sold? What's it come in? If I wanted to buy heroin, what would I have in my hand when I get past them the money?
You'll get a very small bag, like just a little corner baggie of a powder, and then from there they'll mix it with water wherever they can get water from. Like in some incidents, they may even use water from like a puddle just to get it.
Really?
Just so they can get it in their system. Once they get it, they want to get it in their system as fast as they can, because they want to try to stay well and try to get over that heroin addiction, or try to keep that heroin addiction going. So,
how often does a person have to use it in order to keep, quote, well, unquote?
From what we've heard, it's, they're using 2 to 3 times a day. So.
Is that right?
That's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Incredibly expensive.
What does it do to your crime rate? Because you got to have money, and you probably have a hard time holding down a job.
That's where
I mean, if you even wanted one.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's where the problem we face is we're getting a lot of property crimes like thefts and burglaries, et cetera, to try to help pay for their addiction. So.
You have a lot of undercover work. That's what we won't talk too much about, I guess, but that pays off.
Huge. It pays off huge. These guys I got 2 guys kind of almost full-time at it right now trying to handle.
Full-time?
Yeah. I got one detective. He also handles the general crimes too, but like I said, property crimes and these drug crimes are all tied in together. So if they're working both those, it's good for them to know who's involved and et cetera, and they usually tie back a person to one of the property crimes too. So, but yeah, we have 2 guys that are really doing a good job right now. They made several arrests. Now, we talked earlier about the meth issue. The problem is I think they're doing such a good job that I think now people are starting to turn to meth and cooking their own meth because they're having a hard time trying to get to the heroin. So,
and they cook it with the children in the house, of course. And it not only ruins the children, but the house as well.
Absolutely.
Because the fumes are deadly.
Yes, it's very deadly, and it's a huge fire hazard just because of the chemicals that are involved with it. So it's, I'm not sure which one's worse, but
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess.
It's just those, when you're cooking meth, the problem is they're doing it, like you said, with children present. It's usually done in a household with other households right next to it. So that type of behavior, I feel, is probably worse than the actual heroin issue.
Are they so hungry for this that they can't think about a potential explosion or ruining their kids' lives and health?
Well, it's all about that addiction. I mean, like I said, we all have addictions. Like I love sugar. I can't stop.
With you.
Well, I can't stop myself from grabbing a donut sometimes.
That's a serious word in this community, or in this society, I should say. Addiction. We all know that those who are addicted to alcohol have a terrible life. Some of us have known it in our own families, or have close, dear friends who fight that problem. And it's a mental thing, and some people are strong enough to kick it, and others just yield to it and submit, and their lives are ruined. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And the thing is the heroin users, the ones that have done their best and stayed clean for some time, it only takes some upsetting life event for them to return right back to it, because they want to try to fill that void in their life again. So
it's in the medical world. My father's been gone since 1950. He had a doctor that prescribed narcotics for him, and my dad said, "I'm not taking that stuff. I know what that's going to do," and that was 1950. So, but strangely enough, we found out later, and the doctor's long gone, his family's long out of here, so I can mention it. He was addicted himself. He was shooting, and the reason we know that is we did the dry cleaning, and his coat sleeves, on both sleeves, were coated with blood. I thought that was a strange anomaly, that the doctor was prescribing to my father, but shooting himself. Addiction.
It's happened.
Addiction.
Oh, yeah. We've had nurses that have been addicted. Yeah, because it's easy to write a script and go get it filled. So,
how do you go about getting tips, Chief?
Well, first of all, we have, of course, Crime Stoppers. So anybody that has any tips should always call Crime Stoppers, because they can remain anonymous.
Do you get many calls on that, sir?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you?
We sure do. If nothing else, you can always call the police department at 217-732-2151, or Crime Stoppers was 217-732-3000. So.
So if somebody suspects something, even if they're wrong, they should be calling in, and if they're wrong, you'll handle that very nicely, and they won't. Nobody will be the wiser.
Absolutely, we can always, even if we don't have any information on a certain house, we can always go talk to the people and see. And especially with the meth, if you're smelling chemical odors coming from a house that don't normally there, please call us. Have an officer come down and check it out, and just to see what's going on, and see if they smell or see anything. So.
Now, what would be... Go ahead, Judith. You're going to ask him something. Go right ahead.
No, I was just looking like that.
That's that deer in the headlights look to you.
Yeah.
The meth problem, the heroin problem, the drug problem, period. After that, is that the most important problem that you have on the street today? And after that, what would be the greatest problem that you and your officers face?
Well, again, we have a lot of theft in Lincoln, but thefts and burglaries, but I think those are all tied in with this this issue with the drug. So it kind of goes hand in hand. The next big problem we have a lot of arrests for domestic issues, so domestic batteries, etc. So
Well, that could be a tie-in too.
it could be, yeah.
Sure.
So, but then again, sometimes it's just people just need to learn to take a break, have your argument, but don't take it to the physical part of it. So
Well, the worst part about that is that usually there are children involved.
exactly.
Very innocent, small victims involved. That's the worst part about that.
At one time, I was led to believe that people who took hard drugs, about 90% of them started on marijuana. However, that does not hold true in the other direction. Not 90% of marijuana users turn to hard drugs at all. But do you feel that availability has increased too?
Well, marijuana's always been around. We have a lot of issues with it too. Our traffic officers are doing a good job it's easy to smell, so it's easy to get inside and develop probable cause when you're dealing with marijuana. The thing is with marijuana is like you said, there's that addiction level. So people tend to get addicted to smoking. Let's say when you're a
like
child.
we face sugar, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you're a child, and then you move to, oh well, hey, that wasn't that bad. Let me try this. Well, that wasn't that bad. Well, maybe I can try this. And then they get to the heroin, and you can't come back off that one. So once you get to that level, it's a bad level. So
What are your chances of saving yourself once you get to that level?
it takes a lot of determination, and you have to have a strong will to be able to get off of that.
Is there a program like Alcoholics Anonymous for drug users?
Absolutely, there is. They also have what they call Suboxone clinics and methadone clinics, but the problem is we don't have any of those locally here. Those are all located around us. So those clinics help you get off that heroin addiction slowly, but it takes transportation to get to those clinics. So.
Right.
Now, when you have an OD situation, we have Narcan, is that the correct name?
That's correct.
That you carry?
Naloxone is the actual drug, and Narcan is the brand name of it. Yeah.
I see. And I know I think St. John's church is behind getting those kits, is that the correct word, in cars, your squad cars and so forth.
That's correct.
And emergency responders.
Correct. Currently, the fire departments and the paramedics all have the Narcan in their rigs. We are trying to get it into our police cars because usually we tend to be on a patrol, so we tend to be there first. So the earlier we can get it into their system, the quicker the response is, and hopefully save a life. Problem is there's a lot of agencies all over the United States trying to do the same thing. So the price has gone up, and the availability has gone down because they have to manufacture it to try to keep up with demand. Plus you have the availability in stores, etc., just for the Narcan users themselves, because I believe it's the doctors can prescribe it. I'm not sure about that, but
I don't even, do you have to have a subscription
I don't know.
At this point?
I'm not sure.
Chief Adams, how do you, where do we stand on cameras on our officers?
That is a very interesting topic. That one, it's the camera in and of itself is not an expensive venture. The problem is the storage, because video takes up a lot more room than audio does, or even a character like a document, like you're typing a Word document. It could take up like 16 kilobits, but when you're talking audio, you're talking maybe 1 to 2 megabytes. But when you're talking video, you're talking gigabytes of data that has to be stored. So just the calculations I did, if we were to put cameras on our guys, it would take about 52 terabytes a year to store data. And that's that's a pretty penny every year. So you're talking probably $15,000 a year just for that. Along
Just
with
the storage of the films that they have.
yeah, the video, yeah. And then just to get that from the cameras to a disk, and then because you'll get FOIA requests, people coming in wanting videos.
Yeah.
We would have to redact those videos. So essentially, you're going to have to hire somebody to do all that work. So, that's another cost that we can't afford right now.
How does that camera work? Does the officer activate it at his discretion?
Correct.
Then
there's a law
why even bother with them?
There's a law that says that once the call comes out, we have to activate it. We're supposed to activate it if we can. If it's reasonable and we can activate it, we have to activate it. Then we have to keep it on until the call is done. Then we have to deactivate it. Again, so you're talking, if I get the call, it takes me 2 minutes to get to your house. It takes, let's say, an hour at your house to do whatever needs to be done. Then I can finally turn that off when I get back to my car. That's an hour and 10 minutes of video that I'm going to have to store at that point. And that's a lot of video.
So it's no great panacea
officers,
to law enforcement.
So
it's not
that darn magic.
It's not a big answer to law enforcement.
No, it's not. I think there's a lot more improvement that needs to be done before we try and invest in that type of technology.
Sometimes I think we hop on things because they're in vogue.
Yeah.
And right
that's a
now,
good point.
wearing the camera is a big darn deal, but if I were asked to vote on that, I'd say forget it.
Yeah.
Now,
I think
before
it's a
we lose
waste
you,
of money.
Chief Adams, before we lose you here, we got to be mindful of the clock because I know you had that Springfield appointment. Medicinal marijuana. Of course, we're going to have a grower here very soon, right on the north side of town. There's a big grower over there in Delavan. And as I've said before on air, I have a son who's retired from DOC, and he's in charge of security for a retail firm up in Canton. What are your thoughts on medicinal marijuana?
Well, again, if there's a medical need for it, then I think it's a plausible. It's another drug that can be used, and if it's prescribed and used appropriately, I think it's fine in my eyes. Problem is they're trying to push legislation right now to essentially in Illinois to try to make it so you can have up to 10 grams of marijuana. Problem with if you pass that, the medical marijuana people are going to be put out, because if you can get on the street for cheaper than you can buy it at the medical marijuana, there's no need to have the medical marijuana places anymore.
Now, you talk 10 grams. If you talk just about a regular cigarette, how many cigarettes would it take to make 10 grams?
Well,
so that I can have some frame of reference. I don't speak in grams.
Well, I would say, I'm ballparking here, but 2.5 grams is just a small little corner baggie of marijuana. So I would assume you could probably put at least maybe 2 grams in each cigarette. So it'll give you
so
about
it'd be 5 cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I was astounded at how much these folks pay when they go to this retail places like up there in Canton.
It's an expensive hobby.
$385 an ounce or a gram or whatever.
Yeah.
And people, I asked son, I said, where do your customers come from? He said they come from all over. One lady drove all the way up from Marion, Illinois.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's all cash money, by the by.
Oh, yeah.
There are no checks, no credit cards.
Yeah, it's still outlawed by the federal government, so they can't. You can't put it in.
But it's legal in Illinois.
And that's why they can't put that money in federal deposit banks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Paul,
gosh, things are just as broad as they are long all the time, aren't they?
We appreciate your coming, Chief Adams. We're going to take a short break for commercials and then excuse you so you can get on your way to Springfield. We'd like to stay in touch from time to time, Chief. Have you come on periodically and kind of tell us what's going on here in Lincoln. So thank you very much for today. Do you have any closing comments before we get out of here?
Nope, thanks for the opportunity.
Well, we're happy to have you, sir. So we'll take our commercial breaks and then we'll bring Angie on. And we're right back live in the studios with WLCN. The program is Viewpoint, a program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives that we have a personality and another little perspective, and we're going to have Mrs. Busby, the co-host, introduce this young lady. We appreciate you coming up, Angie, and giving us your time. Go right ahead, Judith Kay.
Yes, Angie has been with Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital for 4 years. She wears several hats. One is Healthy Communities Partnership, and they're involved in many good things, and one of them is this heroin epidemic. Mm-hmm. And in what way does Healthy Communities Partnership contribute to this cause?
Well, the way that we're organized is we have several task forces that address different issues in the community that impact the quality of life and the health of our community and residents. We have an alcohol, tobacco, and other destructive behaviors task force that really was trying to figure out how do you approach this heroin issue. You know, it's not just Logan County, it is across the United States, but we did see an increase in the number of overdoses happening locally and knew that we needed to do something, but it's such a complicated issue and wanted to figure out how to, you know, eat the elephant one bite at a time kind of thing. So probably took us about a year before we really kicked off our local initiative.
And what are you and your task force doing to address this at this time?
Well, what we've done, and it started in February, I believe, was our first meeting, just to get the players at the table, like Chief Adams, the people on the front line who are really dealing with the heroin epidemic right up close and personal. We wanted to talk to them about if they agreed with us that yes, there indeed is an issue, it is increasing, we want to try to do something about it, and then come to an agreement on an approach. And what we had found in our research is what's called the 4-pillar approach, and it's actually started in Europe, but what they do is, since it is such a complicated issue, they look at it from all angles, kind of the continuum of the problem. So you start with prevention, and you want to look at what are you doing in your community and what can you do to prevent people from becoming addicted or from using heroin in the first place. And then you look at harm reduction is the second pillar. Harm reduction is all about how can you reduce harm because there is a problem. You acknowledge that there's an issue, so how can you reduce harm to the families, to the users, to the community, to the children, you know, of the addicts, and the next pillar is the enforcement pillar, and that's where Chief Adams really comes into play in his team, along with the Sheriff's Department.
Squad car yourself.
No. The Sheriff's Department. We get all those folks at the table because we want to look at what are we doing enforcement-wise and make sure they're, not that they weren't, but just look at what are we doing and how can we better work together, or, you know, just make sure the right hand and the left hand, or we're all communicating
on
to support the enforcement sector's efforts. And then the last pillar, the 4th pillar, is treatment. So then you really look at what treatment is available. Do people have the opportunity to get to treatment? What barriers are there for treatment? So that's the approach we decided to do. So again, I believe it was February, we had our first meeting with the people that we knew were really dealing with the heroin issue every day in their positions and in their agencies, and said, okay, we found this 4-pillar approach. It seems to be working and it's effective in other areas. Are you all on board for really coming together and creating a comprehensive community action plan and get everybody on the same page? And so we were really thrilled with the response and the interest in it, and so that's when we really started our planning. So we've since had 2 meetings, one to work on the prevention side of things, one to work on harm reduction, and got together a third time and took all of the feedback from those meetings and created a action plan for those 2 pillars. We decided to just get started instead of waiting until we got through all the pillars. We're going to start enforcement next. But that's how we decided to approach the issue. And so it's really been an effective framework, because when you're dealing with an issue that is so complicated, it's such a monster, it really helps you to have a framework like that, because you can make sure you're not missing anything and talk everything through. And I think we've already, even though we haven't really started implementing the plan yet, we're in the works of that right now. I think that just that process, that we've already had so many great things come from it, because we had all of this great collaboration happening. I mean, the partnerships that are going on throughout Logan County, the information that's been shared has already, I think, helped everybody who's come to the table.
Angie, do I understand that you mentioned the 4 pillars?
Yep.
Did I understand correctly that the genesis of that was in Europe?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Based on a heroin epidemic, actually. And you can actually use that 4-pillar approach for other things. I mean, I look at it as something we might use as we move forward, as we continue our efforts to address obesity or anything. Yeah. But
well, you made a little headway there. We're not first now; we're second.
That's right. We are. We are making progress with the obesity epidemic.
Happy with progress.
Absolutely. You know, and everything that, all of our problems, we have to remember in Logan County, all of our problems are not specific to us. We're not the only ones fighting high diabetes, high obesity, high cardiovascular. These are all problems that
across the board.
Across the board in the whole country as a result of the culture we're living in. So, Logan County isn't a horrible place with all these issues. We're just actually trying to address the problems and make it a healthier place for everybody.
Which is just a wonderful thing. But you're right, Logan County is a great place. It's a great place to raise a family. We 3 have done it. You're in the process of doing it. You grew up here. It's a good place, but that doesn't mean that it can't be better.
Exactly. It doesn't mean we don't have problems, and every community has problems, but it's just whether or not the community has the strength and the partnerships available to come together and do something about it. So that's the best thing that's happened with the Healthy Communities Partnership, is really getting everybody to work together.
You mentioned the obesity factor. Is it fair to say that too is an addiction?
Well,
of a sort. I mean, under that broad mantle.
Well, I think that Paul, Chief Adams said that about sugar, and sugar addiction is a true thing that's happened in our culture for sure. It's hiding in a lot of foods we aren't aware of. We're drinking a lot of it. We're drinking a lot of extra calories with our sugary drinks, and those calories, you can't burn those. You're really we oftentimes set ourselves up for obesity because there's no way your body can burn off a 64-ounce Mountain Dew gulpy that you buy at the local gas station. But that's our culture. You buy the big sweet tea at McDonald's. You're never going to be able to burn those calories off. It's not possible. So I think you do get addicted to the sugar, and you get addicted to that way, those high-fat foods.
Well, and it's a two-pronged thing. Not only are we taking in much more sugar, but we're much less active than we ever were. So, sitting in this chair isn't going to burn a lot of calories.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's where our Healthy Communities Partnership launched our 5210 initiative a couple years ago now, and that is an obesity prevention program that's been proven because it highlights eating 5 fruits and vegetables a day, because if you're eating the good stuff, hopefully you're eating less of the bad stuff. No more than 2 hours of recreational screen time a day, because we're trying to get kids off of their going home and sitting down and playing on their iPads. And then there was just a cat that just ran right past me there. And then
this is a cat house.
It was just with such enthusiasm that he came in here that it took my breath away. But anyway, so the 5 fruits and vegetables, no more than 2 hours of screen time, and then at least 1 hour physical activity, because you really have to make an effort a lot of times in our culture, whether you're going to work and sitting down or you're going to school and you're sitting down.
But you mentioned screen time.
Yes.
And that in itself is an addiction.
Yeah, that can be too.
At kids at their computers or at their on their cell phones. I like that wonderful commercial on TV that shows the grandchildren going to visit the grandparents.
That's my best.
And the grandparents meet up at the front door and hang all their stuff. Here, these don't work. Can you help me on that?
Yes.
Well, that's a great commercial.
The best commercial
but
in the world.
There's a terrible, an electronic, for want of a better word, an electronic addiction. And even if some of adults, I might add,
absolutely
exhibit that tendency.
It's everything in moderation, which isn't that the key to life if you can figure that out?
Yes.
Because at this stage in the game, when it comes to electronics and screen time, people need them for their jobs, people need them to organize their lives, people need them for communication.
But,
phones you have all the time.
Most of the time spent at home, instead of being out, they opened the door and sent us out to play.
Yeah.
75 years ago or so, 80.
Well, we have to remember, we're not just talking about iPads and Xboxes and the things that I don't know the names of, but also TV. I mean, TV's been around a long time, and people sit there and
watch whatever comes on. Another effort on the part of ALMH and Healthy Community Partnership is the farmers market, and I don't want you to get away before you address that. Please and thank you.
How much time do I have? Because I have to squeeze a lot in. Well, we
want you to come back and give us an update on this in time.
I'd love to do that. The Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital Farmers Market is actually an initiative of the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital Foundation. It is funded by the foundation, and it is an effort to, again, we're doing a lot of work to address the obesity issue, because we have found in our research that obesity is the root cause of a lot of our health problems, of the cancers, of the diabetes, of the
knees, hips.
Yeah, and so we want to keep people healthy, so we're focusing on that obesity issue. So we've done 5210. We're doing a coordinated approach to child health programs in 8 Logan County schools, and hopefully more in the fall. But we're kind of throwing everything at obesity. We're putting a trail in at Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital soon, so that's going to be open to the public, where you can walk around our nice pond and our fountain.
Oh, yes.
And get some nice exercise outside. And that we're hoping to. I wanted it up and running for my birthday in July, but maybe August. We're having, it takes some time to get the.
We'll get it up and running for my birthday in July.
Okay, I know. We just had to fill in a permit yesterday that says it takes 30 days. We have a 30-day waiting period because of that one permit. So darn it.
So you're waiting for
We'll get
what?
there. We'll
Again,
get there.
Bureaucracy at work.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Slowing
So
you
anyway,
to
so then the big one that we're really excited about is the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital Market, and it's an indoor farmers market. It's going to be held at the Logan County Fairgrounds, inside the Logan County Fairgrounds Expo building. It's a great partnership going on with the Logan County Fairgrounds, because we're so happy to bring the event there. We've actually painted the inside of the Expo building. They've painted the outside of the Expo building. We've put new windows in for some of the windows that had been, cracked over the years. So we're really excited to be located there, so we can provide an indoor experience. So we'll be open, rain or shine. And we're not just, there's so much to say about it, because it's not just a farmer's market. First of all, I want to point out that it's a producer-only market, which is the first and only producer-only market in Logan County, because every vendor who's going to be selling there is going to have grown the vegetable themselves,
their own
or the fruit
produce.
Themselves. Yes, you cannot sell it.
Organic things by any chance?
We have a vendor here in Atlanta, Prairie Earth Farms, who is a certified organic farm, but you have to earn your designation to be to say you're organic, which which we're requiring. A lot of times people say they're organic, but it doesn't mean that they have the certification to prove it or are necessarily organic. So our vendors are being very well vetted. We're doing farm inspections to make sure that they are growing what they say they're growing. And if they, for example, if you're selling cupcakes, which yes, there may be a cupcake or two at our farmers market, but you have to make
cupcakes.
it. Well, you have to make it yourself. Maybe you didn't make your own flour, but you did make the cupcake yourself. And if you're growing a cucumber, you grew the cucumber yourself. So we're excited about that. But it's not just a farmer's market. We're really looking at, our vision is that it's a wellness destination. It's an experience, because in addition to increasing access to fruits and vegetables in Logan County, we're also increasing access to health care, because we're going to be having free health screenings available there. We're going to have free fitness classes. We're going to have a free children's program for children 5 to 12 called the Power of Produce Club, the POP Club, POP. And we're having cooking demonstrations, and all where we have marked a trail You can walk the track while you're there and get, it's 0.6 miles if anybody's interested, but you can walk while you're there. So we really want it to be someplace people go to celebrate health and make healthy decisions, access their fruits and vegetables, and incorporate all those things into their lifestyle.
And the dates?
May 21st is our opening day. We're always going to be open from 8 to noon on Saturdays, May 21st through October 29th. People can get more information about it at ALMHmarket.org. Our programming calendar is out there. You can see the listing of our vendors, and we're really excited about it.
Well, we'll have to have you back after the 21st of May to give us an update on how it's going. And
we would love to. WLCN will be there broadcasting live that day on opening day.
Oh, Jim is such a go-to-the-place guy.
So they will be there.
He really does.
Yep.
Do the vendors pay for a space there?
Yes, there's a very small, which we're very vendor friendly. I mean, we are providing the tables for the vendors. We have vendor backdrops for folks. Very vendor friendly, but there is a very small fee for our vendors and a fee for the farm inspection as well.
Angie Stoltzenburg, we appreciate your coming up and visiting with us today about several important factors, not the least of which is our new farmers market, which will open very shortly now. We always try to we were talking about addiction with Chief Adams here, and you yourself in your conversation with us. There's a matter of, I found this statement about addiction. It is time to embrace mental health and substance use and abuse as an illness. Addiction is a disease.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Angie Stoltzenburg.
Thank you.
Thank you.